Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Excellent.
Okay, good. So we're finally doing this.
Right.
We were supposed to meet, but then we ended up recording.
Yes, like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, like a year and a half ago we were supposed to meet, but now we're here and we're recording. So for the benefit of my audience, who's usually not, probably they're not the audience who probably either are not in Juba or they're not online or they haven't been going to church, so they might not know you. Or they might just think this is an angel Kawaja.
Right. Who am I?
Who are you? Maybe you can just tell us who are you and what you do.
Okay, I am Jammie Stark, and I am 41 years old. I'm a wife of my husband Jason, and I have 3 daughters, and I'm originally from Idaho in the USA, and I have been here in South Sudan since 2013. I've been coming here, and who else am I? What else do I do? I'm a lover of Jesus, and what do I do every day here? I am working in right now to restore, equip, and empower the people of South Sudan in practical and spiritual ways, and I work a lot with youth. So my thing that I love so much is music and youth.
So you do a lot of music and youth. You're originally from Idaho. You were born and you grew up there?
I was born in California, and I grew up in California, and then after I gave my life to Jesus, we moved to Idaho.
How was the setup where you were born? Like, what was it like?
I was born in Redding, California, in a very, very small town.
How small?
Like, at that time, it was very small. I don't know how to relate it.
Does everyone know everyone there?
Yeah, at that time they do. Now it's huge.
Now it's huge,
Now
but like while growing up, it's like, that's Jamie.
Yeah, you could just say the street name and everybody would know where you were talking about. You don't have to have directions, really. I mean, Redding was pretty small.
Yeah. And how was your family set up? Like,
I was the only child, which is pretty crazy. I don't encounter almost anybody who doesn't have any siblings.
Yeah.
So I don't have any siblings. My dad died when I was 3 years old, and so I didn't really know him. And my mom was a single mom, and she had a really rough go. She was really into drugs and alcohol, and so I pretty much grew up on my own. Like kind of like a lot of the kids here, just grew up raising myself, trying to get to school, walking back and forth, trying to do my best to grow up.
So your mom kind of let you on a leash.
She was trying to work and then also partying a lot in my young childhood, and so I would actually bounce around from grandma to the other grandma to another relative, and so I would stay there for a few months and then they'd switch because I think they got tired of me. I don't know.
And what do you think led to that? I mean, probably by then you didn't understand the circumstances. Retrospectively, were you able to dig to what kind of like made your mom be that way?
I think she got pregnant at 16 and was married at 17, almost 18. And she was very young, and this was her first love, and he unexpectedly died. I mean, that's kind of hard. And so I think her not really having much of an education, and she didn't know the Lord. She didn't have a strong family to lean on. And so I think she was just trying, like most people, to make it and to be loved. And a lot of times people engage in, I would say, risky behavior, not because they necessarily want to, but because they don't know anything else to do. That's what I think.
And it's a very, I mean, when people kind of like people picture the U.S. and what, they don't see that, right?
Oh, maybe not. But if you watch TV, let's just say this: what you watch on TV is not real.
It's
most of the
not
time.
real, yeah, because like it's very unfortunate for a young child to kind of be in such a situation where like the person that you're supposed to look up to seems to be like
not there
or having. So as a child growing up in this what kind of skills or things have you picked? You most likely grew up probably too early and picked up a lot of skills.
Actually, my life is what happened to me, it's very strange. So I was an excellent student in grammar school, and then when I got to middle school, so grade 6, 7, 8, I really kind of fell off and started hanging with the wrong people. And I would say I had no skills. I actually dropped out of high school in 9th grade to be a part of gangs. So I was involved in gangs and drugs, and also the same kind of immoral behavior that my mom was engaged in. At that time, I was not connected with her. She kind of fell off and went her own way, moved to another state, and was living her life. And so I was just trying to find love, acceptance. I was trying to find a group of people who I could, be together with. I think young people are all really searching for family. And so at that time in my life, I was searching for family.
So were you by then not connected with your mother? Whom were you living with?
2 different grandparents.
2 different grandparents.
Yeah.
So you'll hop from one to,
Yes.
and that's a very good avenue for someone to just fall through the crack.
I did, yeah. So nobody really knew what I was doing. I just kind of stopped going to school. My grades slipped, and I started just doing what everyone else was doing.
And for someone who kind of to understand the picture, what kind of what does that setup look like? Yeah, partying, going on motorbikes, or what?
Yeah, nightclubs at night, drugs and alcohol at different people's houses, kind of roaming around, getting into trouble. I don't know, I just think of, honestly, one of the nights before. See, I had been in the United States, but I had never heard, you'll think it's crazy, I never actually heard who Jesus really was.
While you're in the States, yeah.
Yeah, no, I never even understood up until the time I was 16. And so...
And then so when you see, because here in South Sudan, that would be very outrageous for someone to say until they're 16, they've never had...
I heard the name of Jesus.
The name of Jesus.
And I heard that there was this, so I knew Christmas, right?
Yeah,
and so you'd bring out the baby in the manger and set it.
Yeah.
But that's all, I was like, that had nothing to do with me. So
so you're just going your way. And were you having any other reference, or you're just living a secular life, or what kind
No,
of...
I was actually just trying to make it. I had a group of friends who were always into drugs and alcohol. So it was about the next time to get high, the next time to drink, the next time to get together and party and be stupid, just getting into trouble and, fights and all the things, just trying to survive and not really having a plan for the future. Just every day had its own kind of deal. And so I lived in that for 3 years.
Did that feel good, or it felt off?
At the time, it felt good. But, there's a small part of you that goes, this is not good. But there's you're fooling yourself. Because you have acceptance from people, you have a togetherness. There's some people who somehow seems like they got your back, but you don't realize that that's only if you got theirs and if you're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and then so was there a time there where you felt okay, this is rock bottom now, I need to...
Actually, what happened is, again, I had never even heard anything. I didn't know anything about religion, really, and nothing about Jesus or a relationship with him. But at the time, I had seen one particular night, I was up high, drinking, hanging out with a house full of men who were part of a gang. And I remember coming out the balcony and seeing somebody almost get shot over a drug deal. And in my mind, I went, this is crazy. What am I doing? But I didn't change anything. I got up the next morning and I went home to my grandma's house. And my grandma said, you're either going to stop what you're doing or you're out. And I said, bleep, bleep, I'm out.
Oh,
and
I thought you would say I'll stop.
Nope. I actually said I'm out. And so I went to a friend's house and said, hey, can I stay in your garage? Because I just got kicked out. And she said to me, no, I don't think my mom would be okay with that. Let me talk to her.
Your friend doesn't own the house.
No, she doesn't own the house. Because at that time I'm 16,
yeah.
right? So who owns a house at 16?
No one.
So I didn't choose anything. I just was asking if I could have a place to stay. And her mom said, well, I know you're actually getting my daughter into too much trouble and I'm not happy with you. But if you'll come to church, I'll let you stay a few nights. So I went to church. And I had never heard who Jesus was, or I had no idea. I actually wasn't looking for God. I told my friend, nah, I don't want to go to church. And she said to me, I'll never forget it. She said, yeah, just go, because you don't have any place to sleep. And besides, there's a lot of cute guys there.
What a reason to go to church.
Not a good one. But
Yeah.
God uses all those reasons. And I'm telling you, from that point, my life turned around because I never heard who Jesus was.
So when you, what kind of was it an evangelical church? What kind of a setup was it? The church that you went to?
Actually, it was Bethel in Redding, California. And at that time, they were having a big youth drama. And that night, they had a youth drama. All the youth of the church were just dramatizing a gang life, and it was like I really met a supernatural moment. I'm not kidding you. Like, it was like I sat down and was watching this drama of my life that had just happened the night before, and they were just like basically sharing the gospel in a drama form, and I don't know how else to say it, but it kicked me. It got me really good.
Did it mirror your life to some extent?
Absolutely. It actually even had a scene where there was a shooting over drugs in a car. And I'm like, who read my mail? Somebody got in and saw what happened to me last night. And I had never heard the full story. Like, again, who was Jesus? What did he have to do with me? He didn't. At that point, I didn't. There's no reason for me to go to church. And Jesus was somebody that they pull out every year in December. But what does that have to do with me? And so they actually just told me the gospel and how Jesus connected with my life and what he did for me. And I received salvation that night and gave my life, even though I didn't know anything about the church. I didn't know anything about what it meant to follow Jesus. And actually, from that point, I can tell you my life definitely changed. Supernaturally, I was able to get out of gangs. So you don't easily get out of a gang because you know all the information. They don't let you out if you know where the drugs are and you know who's dealing them. And that's a long story.
So you might get killed if you want to get out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They would have my number and they would not be happy with me. It would not be easy for me to like back out of those relationships.
So you think there was a godly intervention that allowed you to get out of the gang?
There absolutely was. The three leaders of that gang were just not even a week after this all happened, they were put into jail.
Wow.
So I actually was able to just slip away.
But also, had you been in the gang, you might have ended up in jail.
Had I been at those things, had I not been at church, which what happened is I heard the gospel and nobody told me anything about leaving anything I was doing. I just, in my heart, was like, I have a new opportunity for a new life, and so I backed out of meeting them. And had I been there with them, I probably would have been in jail as well.
Wow. And then from there on, what do you do? Like, I know yes, you have the God in your heart, but like your life was kind of messed up at that stage. Yeah, still like physically, you don't have any material stuff, or you also dropped out of school. So what do you do now?
I actually did the first thing that came into my heart, which was go back to my grandma and apologize to her. Tell her I was wrong. I'm so sorry, and this is what's happened to me. I'm a believer in Jesus, and this is what he's done for me. I shared with her.
Because you can imagine the pain in your grandma's heart, seeing first of all your mom going through that, and you. It must have felt very painful for her.
I think it was, but at the same time, she was probably the most graceful person I've ever encountered, and she was so thankful. She chose to believe me. I came back, and I actually ended up getting, again, I think honestly, when we have the Holy Spirit, we have a leading for the things we need to do in life. So at that point, I apologized to my grandma. I told her I would abide by her rules, and that my life is different. And I ended up getting 3 jobs.
Wow.
So I just was like, I need to busy myself with something productive. And so I started working 3 different jobs. And
what kind of jobs are you doing?
One at a retail clothing store, one at a ice cream shop.
Yeah.
So like, Baskin Robbins, I don't know, it's ice cream. And then a pizza shop as well. So food service and retail.
And you will do this, throughout the day?
I would go to one job in the morning and then go to the next job in the evening, and then the next day I would work the 3rd job. Okay. So it's usually 2 shifts in a day, and I would work probably 12 or 14 hours a day.
Wow.
Walk myself back and forth to my grandma's house because I didn't have a car. I came from a destroyed life, and so I just determined in my heart that, hey, Jesus has given me a new chance. And
so I really want to, and that must have been very tiring, like working 3 jobs.
It was tiring, but I feel like,
you're like, you know what?
Young people can do much more than.
And you don't feel it. Yeah, young people, you can just.
You just keep going.
Has that must have you that must have kind of manifested some change in your life immediately. Were you able now to buy stuff, to bring food, groceries?
I was, yeah. I was able to actually buy a car eventually.
Yeah.
And things started to come together. But at that point, I didn't know, I didn't really, again, I didn't know all the things about what it means to follow the Lord. But yeah, my life was really changing, and I was had the power to make the right decisions.
And then now I think you started growing your knowledge in Jesus now, knowing some doctrinal basis or stuff like that.
Actually, it took quite a few years.
Yeah.
Because again, I heard the gospel, I received it, but I didn't have anybody to show me what that looked like. Because we either need to read the Bible or we need to have somebody walk alongside us to understand what it means.
Yeah.
And so I went like 5 years without anything like that. And then I got plugged in at a church who was very intentional about talking about, okay, here's the things that Jesus said, and here's what it looks like to be a Christian, and to put the Word of God in your life, like when you're at work, when you're with your friends, and just showing us what it looks like. So. And
now from there, were you now able to make new friends in this new church?
Yeah, it was. It was slow, but yeah, some people make friends easier than others, and I think in the world, made a lot of bad friends. And when it came to my life changing, it was a different process of learning how to make friends. Because before I would do whatever everyone else was doing so that I could have friends, and this was a different process of finding out, well, who has God made me to be? Who am I? Who am I actually without all this other stuff? Yeah. And so it was pretty slow making friends, but I did.
Wow, that's a very and until then, were you able to reconnect with your mother at any stage?
Later. After my first child, and I was pregnant with my second child. So I'd married at the time. My mom kind of resurfaced, and I shared with her and talked to her, and she was very shocked by, I was married and my husband had a business and I had 2 children. I had finished my high school education and was moving on. She was very shocked. And
shocked in a sense of like she really thought nothing good can come out of it.
She had no idea that all this had happened to me. It's like she had been somewhere else, I think. When you're living that lifestyle, you forget about things. And so I think when she left me in a certain way, and she came back, and I'm a mom of one and one on the way, and helping my husband run a business. And that was just, I think, I don't mean she was negatively shocked, but more like positively, like, oh, what happened? You're no longer small. You're a woman. So.
And then how did you meet your husband?
We actually we got married when I was 18. So we met when I was 17. And we actually met roller skating. Oh. Like just being silly. I had taken one of my small cousins to celebrate her birthday, and we just kind of met at roller skating ring. So we're out there.
And then so you guys then 1 year later you guys are like, okay, we need to get married?
6 months later.
6 months later.
Yeah, we kind of rushed into it. Yeah. And we were...
What was he doing?
He was in the military.
He was in the military?
So he's a Marine. Oh. So he was.
He was a Marine. And he lived probably a different life than you, to some extent.
He grew up in the church, and so he did live a very different life, but he had actually backslidden and walked away from God for a number of years. And so us getting married actually was part of what brought him back to Jesus, because when we got married, I knew Jesus, but he was not following the Lord. No, he was living a worldly life. So yeah, it's very interesting how.
No, it's very interesting. So I don't like. So he by then did he finish his service in the Marine or?
He would. By the time we got married, he was getting out. So.
And then like here you are, and he's there, and then you guys start a life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he from a family that's a bit resourced, or he also came from a background?
No, they were resourced. His mother and father. His father was a U.S. Postal Service worker, and his mother was a medical coder. So she worked with medical records, and they had a small farm and some other things. But the way it works for us is that when 2 people get married, they decide they're going to get married. If the parents bless it, then it's blessed, and they don't depend on the parents' provision.
There's no dowry?
Nope.
Oh, wait, no dowry?
No.
I mean, so now the 2 of you then shape up a life together then. Yeah, you start life.
we start life together, and our parents, his family, and then some of my grandparents were surrounded to provide moral support and encouragement. And I mean, we didn't need a handout. We just worked really hard, and we made a life together.
So he was doing the business.
So he was working as I don't know what you call it here, but an engineer, construction engineer.
Construction engineer. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he was doing that for a few years before he opened his own construction engineering company.
So like building houses, doing stuff like that, or and were you working with him in the same company?
I worked with him. I have a background in education in like accounting and management administration. So I worked in the office, and then also I worked also swinging a hammer with him, also with our little kids, because we always took our kids
So
everywhere.
you took so how many kids do you have now?
I have 3.
You have 3.
3 daughters.
3 daughters. And the daughters, you took them everywhere with you?
Yeah, we have some pictures of them like in the garbage, like you'll tear down, like have scraps of wood, and they would like pick them up and throw them in piles for us, and we were just always a family that worked together.
So really hard work is kind of like in the DNA of the family. Like
it
really
is.
Everyone should put their hands in something.
Uh-huh.
And now you and when did you guys decide to, okay, let's give this Jesus thing a full-time try?
Actually, we decided that really kind of early on in our marriage, a couple years in. And so we actually just started serving in the church anyway and anywhere that we could. And eventually they ordained us as pastors just because we had a servant's heart. We learned a lot, and we were basically everywhere that we could be to serve others. So we decided that pretty early on.
Okay. And then like from there on, you guys just immerse yourself in service.
In service in the community, in service in the church, in service in our neighborhoods, and wherever we could. And then we actually started, because one of our pastors at the time was involved. He's from South Africa. And so he was involved in an orphanage and a school there. He had a friend who was there. And so we said, we believe God's calling us to serve Africa. And so we started helping with administration and putting our hands in and working there every year. Twice a year we'd go there.
So twice a year fly to South Africa?
Yeah.
And stay for how long?
About 6 weeks each time. And we would just really work with the kids. And then when we were back in the States, we would work with organizing the administrative part of getting people to support children, sponsorship, tracking with the children, how they're doing.
So were there people from the States who will send money or and then you would give them what names of the, like whom they're supporting?
So we would like coordinate which child would get which support, and then sending pictures back and forth. We would go and meet the children and pray for them, and we kind of just help. And we didn't know anything at the time, so we were just all learning. This is like the school of. I tell people that Jesus doesn't want you to just sit on your hands and pray all day. He actually has a school for you to be a part of.
So the school is kind of doing the work and
yeah.
What, like, I know, I mean, I'm not married, but I know people who are married and they say like, marriage itself is like, it's quite some task. And then marriage with work, family, and ministry. It's like, was that difficult at some point?
I feel like it was very natural. Because we chose to be one in purpose, and a lot of people choose to get married, but they don't have the same heart for their life. I think marriage is a partnership, and so it's a partnership for more than just your house or just the lives of your children, but your purpose. And so we had a united purpose. We were sure we were both called to Africa, and to serve Africa and to serve the Lord, and so we just decided to be one.
So from an early on, you decided to be one and kind of like together. So you do the trip to South Africa how many times?
In a year, twice, about
twice.
Yeah.
And in which year did you decide to look into like this South Sudan? This country somewhere.
Yeah, I was actually training. So I've trained as a midwife also. Yeah. So I was there at the Africa School of Mission, training in auxiliary nursing. So I was working in the community there. And at that time, we had a friend who sent us this short video of his work in South Sudan. He was working in the area of Ye and had kind of a base there a long time ago. And the government and all the problems that were going on, they actually ended up taking over his base. Wow. But what happened was we watched this video while we were serving in South Africa. So I was training as a midwife, also training.
Which year was this?
This was in 2011.
Okay.
And so at that time, we knew South Africa was a challenge, mostly because of the racial issues. And if you're anyone who really has the heart of God, I feel like those racial issues will drive you crazy. That was one thing that just really was so hard for us living in South Africa. But overall, that was an easy place to minister and to live for us. And so we just felt like there was something more. And when we watched our friend's experience and his work here in South Sudan and the state of where the people were, God just used it really to break our hearts. And we were like, that is a place that we need to go.
Wait, I see that video. I said, like, this is a place that I don't need to go to.
I know, but I feel like that's the response of the Jesus in the Bible. The Jesus of the Bible literally looks at hard places and goes, that's where I'm needed. That's dark because light isn't there.
Yeah, because if you check the American embassy website, they say, like, Americans don't travel here.
They do, yeah, they do. They say
like,
don't
go
go
there. Unless you are like mission critical, whatever, don't come to this place. We're not providing you evacuation and nothing.
Right, sure.
So then from there on, did you start planning now after seeing the video?
Yeah, we had a period of just really praying about it. My husband had a huge reservations because he has 3 girls.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So he's like, that sounds pretty dangerous. But he did feel God tugging on his heart. But we spent some time praying about it. And actually, it took about 3 months. And one evening, my oldest daughter, who's now 23, she walked in the room in tears. And we hadn't really explained much to them at this point because we were still praying about whether we wanted to do this. And she said, I was doing a project for school, and I felt like I should do the project on the country of South Sudan. And she came out in tears, and she was like, I feel like God's calling me to this nation, to help this nation. And my husband and I just looked at her like, okay, that's a sign from God, because that's not an easy thing. And she was very moved. So
it's and then you start planning. You talk to your local community, or
we talked to our church. We had already established a 501c3 nonprofit.
Just like a nonprofit.
Yeah, a nonprofit for the work that we'd already been doing in South Africa.
What does a 555 what?
501c3.
I know the 511c. Because that's what.
It just means that it's a faith-based organization and it's not connected with the government. So it's actually supported by a bunch of individuals, not by church. It's by the individuals who make up the church support this organization to do work.
And then it allows you to be tax exempt or stuff like that to do this kind of work.
Yeah.
And so have you had any experience running an NGO before?
I had actually taken 2 college courses for that, so it was already kind of in the plan.
It's in the plan.
Yeah.
And then did you not go like, okay, how do you get from the U.S. or do you even want to get directly to South Sudan? Or?
Yeah, we actually had a plan just to come here to Juba, but we didn't know anyone. So we didn't know anyone. And it's going to sound really strange. So I have a lot of very crazy stories.
I'm waiting for this one.
But we were doing a missions training course. So we were actually at that time still very involved in the church. And so we would train people up on cultural awareness and what it means to serve Jesus in other places. And at that time we were teaching a class on that at church. And one of the students called me in the evening and said, to me, hey, I'd like you to consider going to Israel with me. And I was like, oh, well, we're preparing to go to South Sudan. I don't think I can go to Israel. And she said, okay. And so we were talking about how we would get into South Sudan, because at that time it was very strict and you needed some kind of, you needed a letter from someone saying you had an invitation.
Yeah, invitation to come.
And we had nothing. And so we were like, oh, that's weird. And so we prayed together, Jason and I. We said, okay, God, if this is your will, you're going to have to give us a contact because we don't know anyone. And so in the morning, I got a phone call from another student who said, I had a dream last night, and I saw a bunch of African refugees in a place that I know is in Israel. And in this dream, I was trying to take you there because there's somebody that's a part of that refugee group that needs to meet you. And she said, I just had this dream. And then I remembered the night before somebody said, please come with me
to Israel.
So long story short, we actually made a leap, and my husband sent me to go and visit this friend at a house of prayer in Jerusalem. And I went there, and they had a contact to a place in Israel that hosted South Sudanese refugees. And I met the guy who brought us
Wow.
here, and the guy who brought us here was connected with Divine Mission, which you know.
Yeah,
we're
Divine
a
Mission
part-
with Pastor Abraham.
Yeah, we're a part. So it's like one thing led to another, which led us to that church, which
I
most
can
of
imagine,
our work has been there.
I can imagine your husband must be very trusting. 'Cause okay, you can go to Israel.
All by myself, right?
All by yourself, go there. But also, like, there is no assurance that you're going to get a contact.
There was none, no. But
And then the person connected you to Divine Mission.
the person was actually got deported and sent
Yes.
back to South Sudan.
Because a lot of South Sudanese refugees were being deported by them. This was kind of like a center for the pre-deportation or something like that.
Yeah. So it was actually what it was a family ministry, and they hosted the South Sudanese and made family for these young South Sudanese youth at this place, and they actually are still running a hostel. So it's like a low budget kind of a place on the ocean there in Israel. And what they did is they would teach the South Sudanese skills and provide them with family and support and teach them about the faith. So it's a kind of like a little bit like what I do right now.
What do you do right now?
What I do right now. But at that point, he had been deported back. And so he connected us with his uncle. And when we flew in with his invitation, and we met his uncle, not knowing what it would turn out to be. And on a whim, just suddenly he said, "Let's go to church," and he took us to Divine. Which
so you show up at Divine, and you what was your impression of the church?
actually it felt like home.
Oh.
It was very strange, and by then they were still in
in
the
the
small
smaller,
hut,
yeah.
and it was beautiful. And what happened was somebody after the church service was kind of freaking out, and we were like, "What's going on?" And Pastor Abraham came over and told us that this lady had had a vision the night before that we were there. And so she was very excited, and it was just really strange.
A lot of things kind of come together.
Yeah, it came together. Yeah.
Do you find it? Do you think like people find it strange when you do such planning and you say like, I had a vision, God told me this, someone showed me a sign. A lot of people like, what is this? I don't get it.
Yeah. I've actually had somebody tell me before, "What do you mean God speaks?" And I was like, "Oh, well, let me tell you what I mean." I just explained, but people do think it's strange. Especially people think it's strange that we're here.
Yeah.
And we don't live in, we live mostly like everyone else.
Yeah.
And we don't have drivers or all this kind of thing.
Because I remember that time I saw your husband had a tuk-tuk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the time I was like, people are like, well, this white man and the tuk-tuk and the ladies just, I don't know what South Sudanese said, like, this is a spy problem.
You're actually right.
There are a lot of people who say that, huh?
It took like humility because at the time we literally came here with not much support. So our church was very supportive of us, but our monthly support as missionaries was almost nothing. And so that was all we could do was get that rickshaw.
The rickshaw, yeah.
The rickshaw, that's all we could do. So actually that was a very interesting season of life.
Because he will be riding the rickshaw, and then you and the girl and the children, and then going to church, then back. And where did you live by then?
In Munich, we've always lived in Munich.
You always lived in Munich.
Yeah.
And also there's a time then you moved to Divine.
Mm-hmm.
You got a chance to have a tent.
Yeah, we moved there. Yeah, to help build the church.
To help build the church.
Yeah.
And how many years did you spend there?
4, almost 5.
5 years.
Yeah, almost.
Almost 5 years in the tent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that tent had you, your husband, and the kids.
There was actually 2 tents.
2 tents.
So one for my husband and I, and
one
for
for
the
the
children. And we had like an outdoor kitchen, and we had we were right there next to the church, and next to Pastor Abraham. Yeah.
That is quite a life.
Actually, I will tell you, and it's going to sound also weird. I'm just weird, but
Okay.
we actually
You're allowed.
we actually loved. That was probably, we didn't know what this season was going to be. This is probably the best season of my life. But at that time, that was the best thing we'd ever experienced. Just getting to be with people in their normal mode and getting to know what it means to be South Sudanese and to love Jesus and like all the crazy things that happen when you live on a church compound. It can
get very wild.
It is wild, yes.
Because people think that the church is only on Sunday. It's not. It's actually like throughout the week. There are different things. There's the women,
and
there's the youth,
the school is also there.
The school is also there.
And the donkey is right there on the corner. And
people,
the well.
This is what the donkey. So, people come and there are fights in that donkey at times.
Yeah, every morning. Thump, 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 thump. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And And you lived there for 5 years.
Yeah,
And
almost.
and then when did you think that it's time for you to start something, to like physically put a structure here for your mission, for your ministry?
We had actually, well, that was two years ago, almost three, but 2.5 years ago. We just really felt a stirring, so we have spent most of our time, I don't know how to say it, but looking for the things that God has put in
Yeah.
people's hearts and wanting to be a part of supporting that forward, not with money necessarily, but with encouragement and prayer and putting our hands in, because we have a lot of skills. So between my husband and I and my children, we have a lot of skills.
Yeah.
God's just really given us a lot of different talents in different areas of life. And so we had spent most of our time really just building up the people of the church and different churches associated with Divine. And it's like 2.5 years ago, we really felt like it's this idea of having a house of prayer, not a church, but a house of prayer that focuses on discipleship, was the thing that God had really called us to do on our own. So we have always just undergirded everything
Yeah.
of Pastor Abraham and the sister churches of Divine.
Just before I go to that, Pastor Abraham, someone that he discipled me, and I actually worked under him for a long time.
Yeah.
He has a good heart.
Yeah.
He has very good heart, and I think that's something that I've kind of like noticed over the years. How was your interaction with him, or what was the build up to you guys collaborating and supporting Divine Mission?
I think we saw what you said. He has a good heart. Pastor Abraham has what I'd call good soil of a heart. He has a heart where God's word goes deep, and a lot of things are coming up out of it. And so we just saw him as someone who God wanted to use in many different ways, many different, not just with Sunday service, but building people. And so from the beginning, we just knew that we were family. And so again, we're living there. We eat together.
Yeah.
We are right next. I mean, his bedroom kind of looked into
Yeah,
our
yeah,
living
yeah.
room.
Yeah.
So it was just we were very together, and so we were collaborating on everything. So everything was, how can we help you disciple people? Because I think that's the gap here in South Sudan, is actually practically
Discipling people in the ways of God, and how to walk and live.
How to take the word of God and actually be able to put it into your actions every day. There's a gap.
Do you think people's convictions and practical lives, at times there is a chasm between the two?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How big?
Very big. Actually, very big.
What leads to that?
I don't know. I think that's why the Bible tells us, Jesus said that we're supposed to disciple people, which is teaching them to obey all the things that he gave us in the New Testament, all the things that he put into the life of his disciples. He gave his disciples that challenge as, don't just preach the gospel, but yes, preach the gospel and baptize people, but teach them what it looks like.
How what it looks like, and how does it
And it's going to
feel?
look different in every place that you're in, because the environment's different, the culture is different, the challenges are different, and but it's like why is there the gap? I think there's a gap because there's not a personal, people are not walking with each other and really being intentional. So you have to be intentional. You can read something and put it down and have it not affect you. You can read something and be like, yeah, that's right, but then not do it. Well, why? I don't know.
So it can, I mean, because sometimes like people say like, okay, I go to church on Sunday, but like when I'm doing a business transaction, I'm conducting my marriage, or when my child gives birth, or when I'm going to the hospital, I need to deal with those things the way I need to deal with them, how it is being done.
Right. But that's not actually what Jesus said in the Bible, and that's what I think that we're missing. Is Jesus wanted the gospel, the good news of the kingdom, because it's a new way of life, to actually invade, and we let it invade every part of what we do. I mean, that's what Jesus, when he told those parables, that's what he was doing. He was taking the thoughts and the heart of God and putting it into a way people can see how, oh, I can put that into my everyday life.
So something like the parable of the sower, or something like that, like you should have it in.
Many things. He talked about honesty and integrity, and that would collide with business. That would collide with our marriage. That would collide with school. What Jesus said about being the light, and what you sow, you reap. What you plant, you harvest. Those kind of things Jesus said, he actually intended us to like put them in our thinking, not just read them and go, oh yeah, that's good, that's moral. and then put it down.
And what practical steps, what practical step can a Christian take so that they can make these things applicable? Like, I mean, yeah.
What practical? I think that sometimes without discipleship, it seems very confusing how to walk out your faith, how to walk out. I think church makes the gospel a bit confusing sometimes, although I don't think they mean to.
Huh?
I think sometimes church makes it
I
hard.
thought that is the factory. That is where things should be made from.
It should be. It's a place of support. And I love the local church, by the way, and I don't talk bad about her at all.
Yeah.
But I think there are gaps, and so I'm just trying to think of how to answer that. I think that taking the red letters of Jesus and saying, okay, I've given my life to you. Many people don't think their faith means giving their whole life to.
So you mean when it said giving your life, it means practically really giving it in a way. If someone is kind of working for a master, that master dictates you what you should do.
Right, sure. And when you give your life to Jesus, it means you're saying, I want to follow you, just like the disciples said. Jesus said, come and follow me, which meant walk after me, watch where I step, watch how I treat people, watch what I do, watch how I live my life, watch how I pray, come and follow me and be like me. So
now they're building this house, the house of prayer. Where did you this is your spy husband and where did you guys get the funds to now put this thing together?
Actually, we didn't build it.
Where to rent it or to lease it?
Yeah. Again, we just pray about everything, and we knew that it needs to be a multi-level house because we eventually would like to have a discipleship school there. Right now we're discipling people, and we have a program sort of esque, but it's more like a family. But we know that the setting was not supposed to be like a commercial building, so we're praying about it, and we didn't have any money. So you'll know if you hear any of our stories. We are on the grace of God here, and we are by support. And my husband has left his business, and I've left the things that I do to just serve the Lord. And I work very, very hard at what I do, but I don't earn an income either. So we were like, well, we don't really know. With the support we had from the donors for the ministry, and people were very excited about opening up because they've been watching what we do at Divine, and
because you communicate. You're very good in communication because I've seen this since the beginning. People put like, hey, this is what we have done this year. This is what we spent. That's the things that we bought. God bless us with this. Raksha, we did this. Your communication is very consistent with your partners or would-be partners also.
Yeah, and that's helped a lot.
Yeah,
people can track with what we're doing.
People can track, and I think that's very essential for the ministry.
Yeah,
especially for people to see what is happening. We went to Turkey, the car got stuck, and this is where we were, or stuff like that. Like all need to be communicated.
Yeah.
Because in the US, people have no clue. They might listen, but they don't. They can't practically put it together.
Because life is very different.
Yeah, life is
very different.
Like, hey, you take the highway.
Yeah, let's show you what the highway looks like.
So now, after praying, were you able to get some doors open? Well,
after praying about it, we looked around and we found the place we're in right now, but there was no way we could afford it. There was no way. So we actually put it down, and it just kept coming up. And our board of directors encouraged us to continue praying and trusting the Lord. And shortly after that, we got a large donation and felt like, okay, we can start with this. We believe this is the place that God has for us, and that we'll grow into it and probably grow beyond it, is what we felt, which is happening. We're definitely growing into it. And so it's one of those stories where we just stepped out in faith, and God has provided, and He provides on a monthly basis. We are, again, on support. So we just, every month, the Lord provides, and this is what it's been.
How does it feel like living in South Sudan? Because you're not an NGO Kawaja. You're not on a UN vehicle cruising. Right. You're in the market. Yeah. You have neighbors. You're in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
How does that feel like, the daily life?
You know what's interesting? I have a very different perspective, and so do my children. Very different. But for somebody came and visited and volunteered with us for about 6 months, and when they first got here, they said, how do you do this? How do you do this when it feels like everybody hates you? And I was like, whoa, I don't perceive it that way.
Yeah.
I don't perceive it that way. He was really, because for him it was a very big culture shock, and we've been here for a long time. But I love this place. And I say that sincerely. I really love the people here. I love the vision that I have in my heart that God has given me for this people. I feel like God has such greatness for this nation, even though it looks crazy. I love being here. I love my neighbors. I love sometimes the crazy things that happen in the market. You forget you're a Kawaja till you go to the market, and then everyone lets you know.
Everyone lets you know that you're a Kawaja.
Yeah.
And but you know the stuff. You know the prices in the market. You've stayed here more than I did. I was a bit in Kenya.
Yeah.
But so after some time, do they kind of know? Okay, this woman is a local.
Actually, we get treated most of the time very well, and people do know us, and it's really just normal. And actually, I feel funny about going back to the States. I haven't been back for more than 2 years.
Wow.
I don't even really want to go.
And your daughters are also, they grew up here kind of practically. They like they're teenagers, or they kind of.
Yeah, my daughter Aliyah speaks. She's a Janubi. She speaks. She speaks Arabic like she inspires me.
No, she speaks Arabic. The what is interesting, earlier on you were telling me you're 41, and you know, like at times when I see your picture with your two daughters, and I'm then like, okay, who's the mother?
Right. That's the grace of God.
Do people at times confuse or say like, this is your sister?
Yeah, they do. My middle daughter.
Yeah, your middle daughter.
Because we work together with her a lot, and so they think we're sisters. Yeah.
And it's the one who plays the guitar.
So she plays guitar, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what kind of because you practically, you grew up as an American, but now your daughters, like your middle daughter and one, do you think their view on life is slightly different than yours, or how they grew up, they turned out to be a bit different because they're partly South Sudanese?
Yeah.
As growing up, how does that manifest?
I think it's the contrast is very loud with Aliyah, my youngest. Because she was here since she was 4, and she's now almost 14. So
wow.
Her perspective is very different. I think Sarah's is like mine. We've just really chosen to in whatever way we can, because we want to align ourselves with God's kingdom and the thoughts of His kingdom. But this is like home, so we're just trying to we're just, I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like what is here is more of our perspective of life as it is, and not whatever's in the States. So I think my daughter has a heart for children, and Sarah, she would like to in the future open up a school and really see kids impacted from the littlest to the biggest. And her vision is more like towards like the kingdom and God, and maybe not so much business and things like that.
As we kind of concluding, we started by you talking about your life, and you started life at a very rough edge. When you kind of now look at your current self, and then look at your flashback into your early life, those years of drugs, or your mother not being there, or moving out of the house, stuff like that, what does that tell you? Like, what comes to your mind when you see this contrasting beginning in your current life?
Honestly, it just shows me that Jesus is not a religion, but that His power is greater than anything. That's someone else. That person, I don't even know who that was, and I don't carry the pain from that. And the only thing I carry is the ability to relate to people who are coming from that kind of situation. And what do I think? I just think God is really, really, really amazing, and there's hope for anyone and everyone, for a new life, for a new hope, for everything.
Jammie?
Yes.
Thank you for being on my podcast.
You're welcome.